Hi, it's Dre Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. Today we discuss building generational wealth with Roth IRAs. Imagine this, you take a tiny seed and you plant it in the ground. That tiny seed is your Roth IRA. You water it, it gets proper sunlight, proper nutrients, and then it grows into this big money-making tree. And along the way, you're sitting there wondering, how was I able to create this? I have tax-free money, I don't have any required minimum distributions, and I'm able to design this in a way that gives me maximum flexibility in retirement because anytime you often hear me talk about generational wealth, it starts with your retirement. You have to make sure you're right before you can focus on the next generation. When you have your retirement set right, now we don't have what we call reverse generational wealth. That is this idea that because I don't have my retirement set up, my next generations are actually funding my retirement lifestyle, reverse generational wealth. Ideally, we're able to set our retirement right, and then if we're able to help our children along the way, then that's something we can do. This particular strategy allows you to be able to take small amounts of money and grow it over time. All we need is a little bit of foresight and a little bit of planning ahead, and you can ensure your children and even your grandchildren are set up for success where you're paying for college, homes, businesses, really setting your next generations up in a way that ensures that they have so many advantages and it comes from a tiny seed. That's the power of a Roth IRA done right. And today we'll go over 4 reasons why the Roth IRA is such a powerful tool for creating generational wealth. First and foremost, that money grows tax-free. So you put in whatever the limits are, and this year it's $7,000 a year that you can put in as long as you have naturally that earned income. And then if you're 50 plus, you have an additional $1,000, so you can put in $8,000. It's probably a good time to mention that your Roth IRA and your traditional IRA, those limits are tied together. So if you put in $8,000 inside of your traditional IRA, then you put in $0 into your Roth IRA. If you put in $5,000 into your Roth IRA, then you could have only put in $3,000 into your traditional IRA. Because they're combined, you want to be thinking ahead of time, what makes the most sense for me to put my money? If you're worried about taxes today, then I want to defer my taxes for later. I believe my taxes will be lower later. Traditionally, that is someone that would use a traditional IRA. That money is tax deducted today and is taxed as ordinary income in retirement. But if you're someone who is focused on the future, such as building generational wealth, then you would want to put the money inside of a Roth IRA because that money is taxed today. You pay the taxes on it from your ordinary income. And then when you invest it inside of your Roth IRA account, that money now grows tax deferred, which means I don't pay taxes every year on the growth of my account. And that money comes out tax free. Whether you use it in retirement now or whether your children take it out later, that money is tax free, which is a pretty great investment vehicle. And there's not many that give us that type of flexibility. The second reason your Roth IRA is great for building generational wealth has to do with the fact that you're not forced to take the money out. Whether that is a 403b, a 401k, an IRA, some annuities, if the money goes in pre-tax, then there's normally what we call a required minimum distribution, and that's currently set at 73 years of age. All that means is that when the money goes in the account, Uncle Sam, because the money is tax deductible, Uncle Sam hasn't collected any tax revenue yet. So as a result, he is chomping at the bits to get his taxable income from our retirement accounts. As a result, he sets a required minimum distribution. All the money that's set in there, you have to start taking it out, or there's a 25% penalty on the amount that you should have taken out. So if you should have taken out $1,000, there is a penalty of $250. That's 25% of that. As a result, building your generational wealth with a pre-tax investment vehicle, well, that's not going to work in many ways because I'm required to take the money out or it gets penalized. We want to be able to have our money in an account that grows and Uncle Sam isn't mad at us. That is why the Roth is such a great generational wealth tool. And because you're not required to take that money out of your Roth IRA, now that money can continue growing tax-free, as we mentioned in reason number 1, for the rest of your life. And it can even grow into the future generation's life as well. That leads us nicely into number 3, which is your kids get a tax-free gift. When you're talking about your 401k and these other pre-tax investment vehicles, these are often called tax bombs. You have a certain amount of money that's in these accounts. Depending on how much you have inside of these accounts, that then requires them to take that money out over a 10-year span normally. That is going to be for your children and other people that aren't your spouse. Uncle Sam normally considers you and your spouse one person. Normally, Uncle Sam considers you and your spouse one person, one and the same. And in many ways, the way he's thinking of this is If I tax the money from one spouse to the next spouse, like let's say something happens to me and the Uncle Sam taxes it going to my wife, well, depending on what the taxes are, Uncle Sam might have taken too much money to where now she's not able to sustain our lifestyle. As a result, you could say, well, hey, you just have to sell the house, it's gone, yada yada. But it's possible that maybe we can't lower the lifestyle any more than it already is. So then you qualify for all these programs that Uncle Sam then has to pay for, or Uncle Sam could just allow the money to go to the spouse without it being taxed. Then that's basically the decision that is currently set in place. If it's your spouse, then the money transfers over, and then they have so many more options. They're able to go off of their lifespan. I mean, there's so many available options when it transfers to your spouse. When it's not your spouse, you normally have 10 set years. You have 10 years to figure out how much money I need to take out. If the money was $1 million in the account, then you probably have to take out $100,000 each year. That could possibly move you into higher tax bracket for those pre-tax investment vehicles. Or if you have even more than that, again, you only have 10 years. So are you going to take an even amount out each year? Are you going to try to figure out how to lower your other income stream so you don't move into another tax bracket? It's a ticking tax bomb is the way we often refer to it when money is in a pre-tax vehicle, because you have to take in that income. And because no one's paying taxes on it yet, Uncle Sam is going to tax you as ordinary income. But when you pass the generational wealth on through a Roth IRA, doing Roth conversions and things along the way, now we have this extra ability to be able to pass this money on to our next generation without it being a ticking tax time bomb. The income is received tax-free. You still have the same 10 years. You still only have 10 years. You can't just kind of draw it out. Uncle Sam said, I'm not going to just be sitting around while you just dilly-dally with your generational wealth. So they still only have 10 years unless it's your spouse. But it's tax-free income and it's received tax-free. And that's a massive advantage for your future generations when you're comparing it to a traditional IRA and these other accounts that haven't been taxed yet. And the fourth and final reason that a Roth IRA is a nice vehicle to build generational wealth is the fact that you can open one for your kids or grandkids even. The only requirement to open a Roth IRA is that you have earned active income. So as long as you're a kid that has a job that has W-2 income, you're paying taxes and things like that, then you're able to have a Roth IRA. And there's no age limit when you can start. You just have the age limits of when you're allowed to have a job. But those limits are different if you're a business owner employing your children. And you can have them do reasonable customary things around the business that is reasonable for that age group. And the IRS generally won't bother you as long as you're not saying they're like a rocket scientist or something like that. Now, obviously, you could try to make the case that you train them and they're different, but I'm just simply saying if you don't want to be bothered, then just have them perform a role that's reasonable within their age range. Then that income is considered ordinary income, and then they're able to contribute up to the limits. The limits are currently at $7,000, as we mentioned, and then $8,000 if you're 50 or over. And obviously, your kids aren't going to be 50 or over, and you're opening it up for them. So then they have $7,000 a year. So as long as they have $7,000 of income, then they're able to contribute $7,000 into their own Roth account. Now, if they only make $2,000 a year, then you can only put in $2,000 into the Roth account. Now, the beautiful thing is, and I'll put up a chart where you can see it, if you're talking about building generational wealth, you're talking about building $1 million. If you give yourself the time, if you give yourself like 40 years, then you only have to put $150 a month to be able to do that. If you did that for 40 years with the average stock market return, you're going to be able to generate $1 million, and you've only put in like $80,000, but you have $1 million in the account because time is on our side. The way Albert Einstein describes it is, he says, compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He said those that understand it benefit from it, and those that don't pay it. So we're saying, I'm going to be able to build this generational wealth, not by me having to invest a whole bunch of money. I'm going to let time work and do all the work for me. We can either work ourselves for money, or our money can work for us for money. In this particular situation, your kid has a job, you open it up, you place the money in there as long as they have that amount of income, and you continue doing that, they'll be a millionaire very early in their life, and then they have tax-free income. Now, of course, it's probably a good time to remind you that when you put the money inside of a Roth, Uncle Sam is expecting it to be used for retirement, and he wants you to work until you're 60 plus. So there is a penalty if you take the money out before 59 and a half. There are some exceptions where maybe I can retire at 55, or there's different events that are happening. There are exceptions to the penalty, but we're simply saying high level, that's the way the rule is. If you take the money out of your Roth IRA before 59 and a half, expect to have a penalty. If you allow the money to grow and you don't touch it before 59 and a half, then don't expect to have a penalty. So ultimately, it depends on when and where you want to use this money. Now, ideally, in the way I would normally describe it, because 65% of self-made millionaires have at least three streams of income, I would consider my Roth IRA one of my streams of income, and that's the stream that I don't touch before 60. But I wouldn't put everything in those accounts because I would like to have the flexibility of being able to purchase a business if I wanted to, being able to purchase a rental home if I wanted to. I want the flexibility of being able to go and touch my money before 59 and a half to build these additional streams of income. If you're someone who says, Dre, I love my job, there's no way I will leave it, everything is rainbows and Skittles, then I'll say, hey, no worries, then leave it in there, we're fine. But if you're someone who's sitting there saying, Dre, I was really thinking about investing in something a little bit more tangible, like a business or real estate, well, in that case, we have to leave the money out. All right, so we'll go over the 5 simple steps for you to be able to set up the Roth IRA for generational wealth. Step number 1, naturally, you got to open the account for you or your grandchildren or your children. Step number 2 is you got to fund it each year. Even small amounts will grow over time. I already showed you the chart where if you allow the money to keep growing, it will keep growing. Step number 3 is you invest in long-term assets. You can simply choose a handful of index funds inside of your Roth account. It's probably worth mentioning because there are some people what they believe is they put the money inside of the Roth account and then it starts growing. You actually have to allocate your investments. If you just put the money inside of your Roth and do nothing with it, then it's going to be allocated basically in cash. So the money's allocated in cash that is not growing with the market. So you want to be able to choose a handful of index funds, go ahead and pick a long-term investment strategy, and then allow that money to grow. That means that we have a long-term approach. So we should invest in a way that makes it very easy, very passive for us to be able to achieve those goals. Step number 4 is we let it grow and don't touch it unless it's absolutely needed, or at a minimum, it's an exclusion where we're able to touch it without receiving that 10% penalty. And then step number 5, we create a plan to pass it on. So we're talking about estate planning. Are we going to put the money inside of a trust where we can give straight to them? Are they going to be any rules and contingency plans in place? How do we want to make sure we pass this on to the next generation and it doesn't become a generational wealth curse? And a generational wealth curse is simply saying that about 70 to 90% of generational wealth is lost by the third generation. I'm someone who subscribes to the idea of better self, better wealth. And all I'm basically saying here is that you had to become a person that is a millionaire, right? You have to change the way that you think about money. You have to change your relationship with money, and you have to make different decisions. That transformation that you went through is the transformation that ensures that you are able to keep the wealth. That's why you see people who file for bankruptcy and they have that mental transformation. They're able to build that wealth again. And then it's also why you see sometimes people who win the lottery, they're broke within 3 years. While a lot of professional athletes are broke within 3 years, and unfortunately, generational wealth is no different. They're broke within 3 years. And the part of it is if I became the millionaire, if I became the person, I have the wisdom and the understanding, then it's not really about the money. The money is simply a visual representation of who I am inside, right? My economic value, the things I understand on how to generate that money. So if I give $1 million to someone who is not a millionaire inside, all they're going to do is revert back to the decisions and the lifestyle that they had before that, which will then revert them back to whatever, let's say like 50,000. That's about the median income in the United States. So we'll say that reverts them back to a 50,000-aire. And so all of a sudden the $1 million are gone and everything's back the way it was because we have to become someone, right? Better self, better wealth. And so the first generation, we figured that out. We went through that transformation. The second generation, our kids saw a lot of the growth. So they have a general understanding. They know a lot of the grind and the things that we did. And so they're able to protect the money in many ways. They're not 100% sure how to grow it, but they know the value enough to protect it. And then the third generation, they're born in luxury. So they have no idea about the growth, the transformation. They have no idea about the wisdom, the strategies, the understanding. And as a result, they don't make the best decisions with the money. And that's why step number 5 ends up being the most important. It's not just about passing the money. It's about passing the wisdom that helped us to create the money, right? Again, the money is just a visual representation of who we have become inside. And so we need to pass that wisdom along so that when they get the money, they are a millionaire inside and they're able to keep it and grow it. Hopefully what you notice is you don't have to be rich to build wealth. You just have to be consistent. And this could be something that if you start early enough where compounding interest is working for you, where you're able to put a very small amount of money in every single month, every single year, and then that money over 10, 20, 30 years, it grows into something massive. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Dre, that's too long. But how common is it for someone to have $1 million and being able to retire at 35 or 45? And I would say it's not very common. Well, if you started with your child at 15 years old and they do it for 30 years, they're only 45 years old. And they've already established such a great foundation from you. When you look at the numbers, you have a plan over 20, 30, 40 years, it's really hard not to win if you have the plan and you're following the plan that long. So remember, as the proverb goes, you're planting the tree today to provide shade tomorrow. I want to thank you for watching this video with me. I know you could have been anywhere in the world. You chose to be here with me, and I don't take it for granted. If you found value, I simply ask for you to like and subscribe so you can continue receiving valuable insights on how to create your own wealthy retirement system. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy life.